It's time to engage in It's time to engage in cyber talk with the Chief of Cybersecurity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to November the 4th. It's Friday. I hope everybody's having a great time. For all the people that are studying for their certifications and trying to get that job for 2023, I congratulate you on all the hard work that you're doing. Some of the previous live streams that I had been focusing on helping you to transition over to getting your career in line. If we move back and look at a couple episodes that were hosted, I was focusing on military veterans. I focus on entry-level people and how to channel your way into the cybersecurity industry. I also focus on certifications, right? And trying to find out what actual certifications that you should have. And there's a strong focus on resumes. And so to really look at all of the information that have been live streamed, it is exactly what you need to go into your cybersecurity job. Whether you are a seasoned person, whether you're an entry-level person, or whether you're sitting back now wondering what type of career map should I follow, all of that information is there to help you out. So to add on to all the information that had been discussed, there's another focus too. It's trying to figure out what actual skill sets that you need to have in order to be successful in the cybersecurity industry. When I speak of skill sets, I am talking about those things that are going to get you hired. Let's just say, for instance, you may have put on your resume that you're very good at using Fortran. And you may put on your resume that you're also good at using Python. So let's step back for a minute. Fortran is not a really strong type of programming language that's used today. If you know Python, you're probably going to find a job in cybersecurity. So our focus today is to look into some of those critical skill sets that are going to get you hired. I want you to think about something for a second. If you was a recruiter, and if you were sitting at your desk, and if you had 1,000 resumes to look at, and as you scroll through those 1,000 resumes, you start to see the same language, and your eyes start to get tired. Eventually, what is going to happen is you are only going to be looking for something that catches your eye. And those things that catches your eye are going to be the hardcore skill sets. Those are going to be the things that you as a recruiter would say that, I don't want to look at the rest of this resume because I need this skill set. And this is where you come in. That's right, you, because a recruiter has one simple job, is to look over resumes and to decide who should be hired. But if you underdocument your resume, do they really know what your skill sets are? I know some of you are probably sitting there now and saying that I spent $1,200 on my resume. I can perform in cyber security. I know how to use Splunk. I know how to use Tenable. I'm really good at maybe malware programs. But is any of that on your resume? Because you need those critical skill sets so that you can move and channel your career into cybersecurity. So for today, that is what I'm going to focus on. 5 critical skill sets that you need to break into cybersecurity. Again, I'm going to move back into history a little bit. If we think back maybe about 10 years ago, when the cybersecurity industry was kind of taking a little fold and starting to grow, imagine the type of skill sets that were required. We were not really talking about cloud as much as we do today. We were not really focused on a lot of threat intelligence applications and skill sets. We were there, but we was not so focused as we are today, because cybersecurity is a changing market. And when it's a changing market, so that means that there are different threat actors. Your cyber protection chain has to change. Ransomware wasn't a big major concern about 10 years ago. So when you take that data and you analyze it and look at it, a lot of your skill sets is based on what is current now. And we can look at your skill sets and say, okay, you're gonna need a five-year window. And in that 5-year window is where your skill sets are going to be growing. Now, going back 10 years ago, I remember that one of the critical skill sets was incident response, because it was starting to take a fold around about 2010, maybe about 2011. I was working on an HBSS project for the government. I thought that HBSS was like the best tool in the planet. It was version 3.8, but today HBSS is probably up to version 5.2, maybe 5.3. During that time, I was somewhat out of the military. I was within my 3-year window. And the skill sets that were needed then was incident response. And I remember learning more about the CISSP and its worth. And then eventually I moved on to learn more. And then I realized that the skill sets were changing. So that's a little history on how we're operating in the cybersecurity market. Here's kind of what I am going to break into today. I am going to talk about 5 critical skill sets. I want you to take notes too. And the reason I want you to take notes is because there's ample amount of information to put on your resumes. There's ample amount of information for you to think about what career path you need to follow. All right. So let's take a typical company. And if we dissect their cybersecurity architect and breaking it down, what we have is some major platforms. Okay. Application, cloud, data, infrastructure, and networking, right? Let's just look at those platforms. Some of the other skill sets are going to fall under those areas. Let's say, for instance, right, if you're involved with the vulnerability management space, you're probably going to be falling into each one of those platforms. If you're involved with application development, then you probably fall in the first one, which is the applications, right? So speaking of application, let's go make that as our first critical skill set. Here is why application development is so important. I'm going to throw something at you that I know that most of you listeners have probably heard before. It's called ransomware. Now, ransomware happens because somebody knows how to program well. Ransomware happens because somebody opens up an email, right? And there's ways that you can craft applications, because as of now, what is happening is that hackers are finding ways to infiltrate networks and organizations through applications. All you have to do is to have an application, and pretty much you should can attach a backdoor to it or something, and bam, and you're in the network. So application development is very important, because if you know Java, let's just say a programming language. One of the programming language now is Python, right? Python is being used because a lot of organizations wants to build proprietary applications, web-based interface, dashboards. Python is being used for that exclusively, right? If you're involved with Java, some .NET applications, all right, because Microsoft runs off a lot of .NET applications, right? Some of the other features too is that you have to understand agile, the agile methodology. Some of the other features out of application development is SaaS and DaaS testing, because applications have to be tested. Somebody has to test these applications. I remember when I was working on a project, I was I was I was an application vulnerability scanning slash software assurance person, whatever that title means, right? Primary focus was to use HP Fortify to go scan these different applications and to find different bugs based on the DISA STIG's recommendations. And when those bugs were found, then I have to work with the developers and try to remediate the issues, such as buffer overflows, SQL injections. See, I could keep going on down the list, but companies have a dire need for application development because application security is needed a lot. If you think about these web-based applications that you have, somebody has to be fixing the bugs in those. If you think about the different applications that you run on your desktop from like Microsoft, some of the Adobe applications, I am pretty sure in the background there are developers that are working on these applications daily to remediate bugs and fixes. Because if you notice that when a new application package rolls out, it's not 100% secure, but it's good enough to go to the market. And in those applications, maybe every other month, bugs are discovered. And this is where application development comes to work. But in order for you to work in the world of application development, then you need to have that skill set of liking the program, learning the software development life cycle. Okay, because software applications are always changing. Some of the other factors, if you want to be able to work in application development here from my notes, working in a team environment, because there are different developers that are working as well. So you kind of have to be able to work along with them. And also, too, understanding that application development will go feed into other areas like cloud, right? Well, speaking of cloud, then let's just roll into cloud really quick. So, because cloud here, and from what I have and what I have on my list, is a very important skill set. All right, cloud. So when you think of the cloud, it's not going outside looking in the sky, right? Cloud is a computer technology that allows organizations to buy services. If you think about Macy's, during the Christmas seasons, Macy's do not want to buy a data house and house about 1,000 servers. So the easiest process is to go to a cloud service provider and actually get the service, and so that they can use 1,000 servers. I've always stated that if you want to understand cloud, then you think about your Comcast, think about the service that you get from AT&T, because you don't own the equipment, because you buy a subscription service. Okay, so cloud itself is pretty much a part of all the other platforms, because you're going to have to deal with application, data, infrastructure, the networking, all right, and also too a lot of virtualization that actually comes in the cloud as well too. Looking at AWS, Azure, those are some major cloud service providers, because in the cloud environment you are going to be purchasing services. Let's just think about AWS. If you look at AWS, because you have AWS Inspector, which is your vulnerability scanning tool. And if you think about the AWS Security Hub, which is supposed to take the feed in from like all of your different sources and to give you a score. Think about the cloud environment in your identity management. And AWS has a lot of certification that you can get as well too. Some of the other features of the cloud environment is that this is where the industry is headed now. I can't think of no company that do not use cloud. And if you were to go out on Indeed and to do a search for any job, somewhere in there, there's a statement about a cloud environment. If you work in the cloud environment, then it's going to give you access to all those platforms, because the cloud itself is an emulation of a traditional network environment. I call it the emulation because it's virtual and it mimics the environment, because it's not a on-prem environment, because there's a lot of virtualization. All right. So if you really thinking about moving into cybersecurity, the cloud security is very important. Even if you do GRC and all of your assessment work as well too, the cloud has something great for you as well. So you keep in mind that the cloud is for you as well too. And the cloud itself deals with cybersecurity because there's a lot of threats in the cloud, and threats are always escalating. So with that said, let's go move into threat intelligence. Oh, now it's getting fun. Now this is where you get involved with cybersecurity protection at the perimeter, threat intel and analysis. I could sit here and take 30 minutes to talk about why this skill set is so important. When you think about the use of SIMs, okay, think about Splunk, think about all the different tools that are available so that you can analyze all the different threat feeds. Threat intelligence also rolls into artificial intelligence, because as of now, there's a lot of organizations out there that are using artificial intelligence platforms just to analyze all of their threat data, because the human eye cannot decipher or to kind of look there and say, okay, then we have 20,000 threat feeds, and actually interpret those threat feeds and figure out what's going on. This is where artificial intelligence comes in as well too. I went to a conference about a couple months ago up down in Augusta, Georgia, called TechNet Cyber. What I noticed that when I was walking on the floor was that there was a lot of tools there that was geared toward threat intelligence, because threat intelligence is very important, because one of the factors of the cybersecurity mindset is to be proactive. And the only way you can be proactive is that if you know what data feeds out there, and if you can analyze that data at a rapid pace. And in order for that to happen, this is where threat intelligence platforms comes to play a key role. All right. So if you're the kind of person that likes to work in a SOC, and all right, if you like to sit there and to look at data feeds and to try to play FBI, or the crime stories, or NCIS Atlanta, this is the perfect place to go here and to gain your skill sets. For all my people out there, there's no such thing as NCIS Atlanta. I was using that as a source. Also, too, one of the things about the threat analyst that you can help prevent the cyber attacks, because these attacks are always escalating. If you have some predictive analytics that you use, you can always go out there and figure out exactly when these threats are probably going to intrude your environment. You can also set up some defenses and to prevent cyber attacks from happening. So if you involve yourself with threat intelligence, this is a great place to learn about hacking, the penetration testing. Oh, speaking of penetration testing, that is one of the other skill sets. Well, let's just move on into penetration testing. Now it's getting fun. Okay, so you want to be a pen tester, right? Here goes some of the things that I know about a pen tester. A penetration tester is there to help an organization out. So you think of a penetration tester as an ethical hacker. Okay, let's just call them ethical because they do the same thing that hackers do, except for they're there to aid a corporation so that a corporation can know what their loopholes are. So a corporation can understand where are they vulnerable. All right. This is part of the proactive mindset. This is part of understanding the situational awareness in an environment there, because situation awareness is about the environmental knowledge. So pen testing help organizations out. Now, if you want to be a pen tester, so you have the certified ethical hacker cert, so you have to know different hacking tools. Um, so you have to know how networks operate, and you have to know how applications operate, because the whole premise is to go into break the bubble. As I have said in the previous podcast, cybersecurity is a shield that wraps around you and your organization. And hacker's job is to break the bubble. So, as an ethical hacker, part of penetration testing, then your job is to let a company know how vulnerable they are and to see if you can break the bubble. And usually, if you find ways to break the bubble, then you make a report to the organization and you tell them, hey, you are vulnerable in this area here, and this is how you can clean it up. Now, now these are ethical hackers. Now the unethical hackers are the ones that are not hired to, and the ones that are trying to cause damage. Some of the other uh, outcomes of this penetration test and skill sets is that you will always keep a job. All right. So you have a lot of people that do that actually do pen testing on the side, such as independent contractors. These are people that have been working around the industry for a long time. Some of the other things to look at too when it comes to penetration testing here is that, well, you need to have a hacker's mindset. All right. And the purpose of having a hacker's mindset is that you need to think like a hacker. How does a hacker think when it comes to breaking through the barriers of an organization defenses? All right. How would I make that happen? And with penetration testing, organization can take a strong assessment into what extent in their security state. So if you want to be a penetration tester, here goes some of the things that you can do. First off, get your certifications in something like certified ethical hacker. Some of the SAN certifications are really good too, that will prepare you to become a penetration tester. And as a penetration tester, you need to come with the CIA and the NSA and the FBI mindset, okay? Because your job is to act like a cyber criminal, okay? But also too, you're going to be investigating an architect and try to go find the weakest link, all right? Because there are some forensics involved as well too. So as a penetration tester, then you become that kind of person. Now, what a penetration tester does is that it helps an organization out too, because what if an organization is prone to having incidents? Now, what happens is that the organization can kind of take that information from penetration testing and figure out their weak points. So, speaking of incident response, that's a critical skill set as well too. So now here's exactly what incident response is about. It's about sitting down in a SOC and making sure that an organization stays safe. Try to make sure that an organization is not being penetrated by unethical sources. And incident response people have to follow a planned step of action once you find an incident. Like you have to go through your analysis stage, where you determine whether it's a false positive, where you contain the incident, where you do a data analysis, where you restore the system, you do it, where you would perform a lessons learned, All of those type of activities is kind of what you would do, but also keep in mind that there are certain tools that are being used in an incident response platform, like Splunk. Splunk is good for logs because you have to go through these logs and you looking at data traffic, right? Maybe you have a rogue device on a system. Now, a rogue device is something that has never been seen before, okay? And a rogue device is something that just pops up. Maybe somebody brought their own computer onto the system and then they logged in and it shows up as a rogue device. So what you have to do is to investigate that and to see whether it's an actual or not. Part of the incident response team is that you have to stay active and your eyes are always open because you're going to be using some threat intelligence platforms. So as you see here, if you wanted to work in incident response, then you're going to be connected to threat intelligence and also to some of the penetration testing as well too. And as you can see here, these are critical skill sets. And if you were to go out to Indeed and just type in the word incident response and watch how many jobs come up. All right, there's plenty of jobs out there. Now, there's this thing that most people say that I don't want to get stuck in a SOC environment. No, you don't have to get contained in a SOC environment, but you can move out of that environment if you study, if you get other certifications, because incident response is going to prepare you for other roles, like a penetration tester would prepare you for other roles as well too. All right, so there are some added skill sets that you need outside of the 5 there. One is that you need to know tools. Learn as many tools as possible. Learn some analytics platform, because now what happens is in this market is that there is a dire need for people that can understand analytics. All right. The third level is ITSM, Information Technology Service Management. This is where you take the business side of IT and pretty much you combine that with the technical side. So what you have to understand is how ITSM works. There are some soft skills too that'll go get you on board: problem solving and your communication and your attention to detail. All of those are very important because IT is a very high up-tempo environment. A lot of times managers do not have time to give you all the information. So what you have to do is to be detailed and to take notes and to know how to react. And part of that is having that cybersecurity mindset, because when you have a cybersecurity mindset, you understand process, you understand a roadmap, and you can carry cybersecurity from point A to point Z, but you're able to simplify it, operate, and also to connect cybersecurity. All right, so what I've given you today has been some critical skill sets that you can use for your career. If you have any others that you think that are most important, well, hey, guess what? You can reach out to me on my YouTube channel. All right. So until next time, stay safe, learn, and stay engaged with cybersecurity.
You've been listening to the Chief of Cybersecurity Livestream. Please join the YouTube channel and purchase your copy of the Cybersecurity Mindset.